All right, so this will be the last video for notes 1. The last little section here is on order of operations. And what I'm going to start with are these problems up here in the corner dealing with some exponents and negatives that we really need to make sure we cover before we get into the order of operations issues. So let me slide on down here, kind of expand this. So one of the things, again, do you have to do what I'm about to do? No. In fact, if you look at some of my work, I won't do this all the time, but it might help to understand how this exponent applies to, and I'm going to say it weirdly, but these two pieces. So in this situation, no parentheses, this exponent only applies to that base. So what does that mean? That means there is one negative sign, but two twos. So the reason this is going to matter is because there's only one negative sign, this answer is actually going to turn into a -4. Okay. So again, no parentheses. The exponent here only applies to the base number, not the sign in front. Now, if I look at, sorry about that. If I look at the next situation right here where there are parentheses, so what happens if there are parentheses? Well, that means that this exponent applies to the whole parentheses set. So I'm going to take that parentheses set and I'm going to write it twice. So -2, -2. And in this case, you're going to notice that, because it's been duplicated, the negative appears in both. A negative times a negative. We've got matched signs. So that means we're going to have a +4. So those parentheses can really make a difference. What happens if we are dealing with a different power? Well, same situation arises. We can still do a rewrite on this. The power of 3 only applies to the 2. So I have a single negative sign and then 1, 2, 3 twos. So the single negative sign, I'm going to have a negative. 2 times 2 times 2 is a -8. All right. Well, what happens if the whole mess is in parentheses here, and then I have the power of 3? All right, well, that means I'm going to have 3 parentheses here, -2. Wow, that pencil just died. It said horrible death. Okay, so -2, -2, and my third -2. And this is where we got to be careful because not all problems are created equal. And so if you think about what we did in the last problem here, when we had 2 -2's multiplied together, we got a +4. So let's go ahead and repeat that. 2 -2's multiplied together, that's a +4. Well, +4 times -2 is a -8. So sometimes the answers will match, right? And sometimes the answers will not match. So you want to be careful when you're dealing with the signs. Just make sure you approach them all appropriately with the right exponent. All right, let's talk order of operations. And just so you know, there are 4 steps to the order of operations. We have parentheses and absolute value. These are all of your grouping symbols. So parentheses, brackets, braces. Absolute value are the double bars you sometimes see. Part B, or step 2, is exponents and roots. So powers and your square roots, cube roots, things like that. Part C is multiplication and division. And I'm going to add a little note here just to reinforce this. It's going to be multiplication and division from left to right, because that's what you're going to do. You do not always do all multiplication first. It's whatever comes first from left to right. And the last step is, once you've got everything all together, it's addition and subtraction. Also, adding that little note, this is also from left to right. You do not always do addition first and subtraction last. It's whatever comes first in the problem from left to right. Okay, so I'm going to apply these steps in the order of operation to the 3 parts of problem number 5 here. And I'm a visual person, so I'm going to do a little highlighting here. If I look at this problem and I think about the steps that I have a subtraction step, I have parentheses here, which do mean to multiply. And then I also have the work inside the parentheses. So based off of what I know of order of operations, I'm doing what's inside the parentheses first. So I'm not going to touch the 12 minus 3. And then inside the parentheses, 5 minus 3 makes 2. Okay, so that parenthesis set is now done. What's left? Well, I have subtraction here, and I have parentheses here, which mean to multiply. So let's do some multiplication. So that's going to be this part. And yes, I'm grabbing the sign in front of the 3. So that's going to be 12 here. And then if I do negative 3 times 2, mismatch signs, that's going to be a negative 6. And then I only have one operation left, which is subtraction. So 12 minus 6 is a positive 6. So I like doing it a step at a time to make sure I don't lose any steps, and I highlight or underline things as I go so I know which part I'm changing. All right, I'm going to slide over to part B here. Part B becomes a little bit more complicated. Let's take a look at what we've got for operations. We have a power. We have addition. We have subtraction. We have parentheses here, but they're strictly standing in place of multiplication. We have subtraction here, and then this weird set of parentheses, which actually is going to talk about, this actually means a little bit of multiplication here. All right, we need to deal with this double negative, and we're going to take care of that as a multiplication problem. So while I have parentheses here and here, I can't do anything with inside the parentheses. So that means the first step that I'm going to be doing is my exponent. So the exponent, the 2 here squared. So nothing else is going to change. So there's my negative. 2 squared is 4. And everything else I am just leaving as is. So I don't try and do too much work at once. Okay. Once my exponent is done, I don't have any roots. So I'm going to look to do multiplication and division. Well, I have a multiplication step here, negative 3 times 4, and I have a multiplication step here, the negative 1. So everything else I'm going to leave alone. So the negative 4 here plus 6. And then let's see, negative 3 times 4 is going to be a negative 12, mismatched signs. 3 times 4 is 12. And then negative 1, the double negative there becomes positive 1. Now at this point, I just have addition and subtraction left over. You can do one of two things. You can combine all the negatives and all the positives separately and then look to see what you have more of. What I'm actually going to do is just work left to right across the problem. So let's see what we got here. Negative 4 plus 6, this very first part right here, that's going to be 2. Leave the rest alone, minus 12 plus 1. Keep walking my way across the problem. 2 minus 12. I have more negatives than positives, so negative 10. And then left with the plus 1. Haven't touched that. And last but not least, negative 10 plus 1 makes negative 9. I have more negatives than positives. Or if you go with the debt idea, negative 10, I'm $10 in debt, and I only have $1. That means, unfortunately, I am still $9 in debt. All right, so that's part B. Last but not least here on this note sheet is part C. Yep, I got all the bits, parts, and pieces there. All right, let's take it apart. Step 1, anything inside the parentheses. And the answer is yes. I have work right here. So let's see, 3 minus 5. What's inside the parentheses? I'll fix that in just a second. I shouldn't say fix. I'll figure it out in just a second. Let's see. Negative 4 plus 2. More negatives than positives. 2 more of them. All right. So no more parentheses that I have to do anything inside of. All the parentheses are standing instead of multiplication symbols. So that's step 1 done. No absolute value. Step 2 is going to be roots and powers. And certainly we have a root right there. So 3 minus 5 minus times negative 2. I'll say it the right way. Plus a little space there. I'll fill the space in a minute. Let's see. Square root of 9 makes, well, 3 times 3 is 9. So square root of 9 is 3. Back to order of operations here. What comes next? Multiplication, division. We don't have any division, so I'm going to do the multiplication here, and I'm going to do the multiplication here. So things that I'm not touching, the 3 here, I'll leave a little space. Plus 3, again, we'll have space at the end. So the first set of parentheses here, this first multiplication, -5 times -2. Matched signs, that's going to be a +10. And then the second set right here, we have another set of matched signs, -2 and a -3. That's going to be a +6. So part C actually ends up here having everything as a positive value. So it's straight addition from left to right. So let's see, 3 plus 10 makes 13. Plus 3 plus 6, 13 plus 6 makes 16. And last but not least, 16 plus 6 is a whopping 22. All right, so that takes us through the last section of Notes 1 on order of operations. Please let me know if you have any questions or concerns.